Hi, welcome to this tutorial about how plugins could be lying to you. Here I have two plugins. Have a listen to this. Do you prefer this sound or this sound? What about here? This one here? Or this sound? There's a psychoacoustic anomaly in humans that we tend to prefer louder sounds to softer sounds. A lot of the plugins that we put on our chain, anywhere in our chain, tend to have the effect of increasing the level. And this is a real problem because knowing that if you know that we're partial to louder sound and by default our plugins are increasing the level, then automatically we're believing that the sound is better than it is. It might be better, it might be worse. Now, I have this compressor at a pretty not so nice setting. It's pumping a little bit, it kind of has a sucking noise. But because I have this makeup button here enabled, what it's doing is it's trying to make up the gain that the compressor's taking out. Unfortunately, Ableton is really bad at this. They couldn't have got it more wrong if they tried, to be honest. I'll show you what I mean. This is with the makeup off. We're doing about maybe 2 dB of gain reduction. So what we expect to hear is 2 dB of gain reduction. It's pretty close. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to engage this makeup, and you watch what happens to the sound. That's just ridiculous. Now, this one here is a saturation plugin, and here you have a drive knob. The way a saturation plugin works is what it's trying to do is overdrive the sound. It's trying, and in the old days, what we used to do on boards is we used to increase the gain, the pre-gain, as much as we could, and then bring our volume down, and you get a distorted, saturated sound, and that's what this is trying to emulate. So it kind of makes sense that the whole purpose of this plugin is to increase the level. So I understand why this plugin's increasing the level more than I do the auto gain, the makeup gain on the compressor. But still, whoops, let me turn that one off. There's still a reasonable amount of gain there. These plugins may or may not be adding to the sound, and we don't really have a good comparison because of the gain increase. So it makes sense that probably what we should do is try to level match, and that's essentially what this video is all about. It's about learning how to level match and why we're doing it. So the easiest way to do this is to bring in a utility at the end here, and I'm going to select all of them and I'm going to group them. What this enables me to do is to engage and disengage all the plugins at once. So I've got the a bit warmer here. It's giving around 6 dBs of drive. Whether that equates to level or not, I'm not sure yet. What we might even do is bring in some kind of meter at the end so that we can get a visual representation as well. Right. Alright, so just disengage everything and I'll get this level. So it's hitting around about the 0 here. It's pretty close. Right, so now what I'm going to do is engage the plugins. Now, we know it was hitting at 0 here, and now what I'm going to do is decrease this gain so it's hitting around the same area. There we go. So we've got about 5 dB of gain reduction there with 6 dB of drive. So you can see that it doesn't always equate to the 6.19 dB drive, doesn't equate to 6.19 dB of gain. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So I'm going to A-B this now. So what you want to listen to is in the really high highs of the cymbals and those noises. What you should hear is you should hear them crisping up, getting them a lot crunchier when I engage it. So as you can see, in this case, I think that the saturation plugin is adding to the sound. It's giving a nice character, and it's not. It's a taste thing. That's a thing that you may or may not do in your production. But compression is something that we definitely do. So let's do the same thing now with a compressor. So engage that. We'll also engage the makeup, that horrible button. And what we're going to do is the same thing. So we can see that that's hitting at 0. We're going to engage this and do the same thing. All right. We have around about 2 dBs of gain reduction here. So what you'd expect that makeup button to do is to make up 2 dBs of gain reduction, of the gain. But it's not doing that at all. It's actually increasing the gain by over 7 dBs. That is just ridiculous. Like, there are really smart people programming this stuff at Ableton. Why they can't get this right, I have no idea. That is insane. What I'm listening for here is when the kick hits, what I'm hearing is all the sizzle of the hi-hats and all those highs. I hear them sucking. I hear them like reducing in volume and then taking a little while to come back. In this case, I wouldn't use this compression setting. I don't think that this compression is actually adding anything good to this sound. In fact, I think it's detrimental to the sound. Very subtle, but without doing this technique, I would never have known that, I would have gone on thinking that it was adding something to the sound. Really, all it's doing is adding a ridiculous amount of gain. So that is an example of how you can use these powers for bad. I don't think they're doing it on purpose. I think it's a bad programming. I think they just haven't really bothered to do it right, to be honest. I think they've just... But I can see how third-party plugins, especially ones that want your money, could use this technique to just make you think that things are sounding better when really all they're doing is they're doing the processing, whatever processing it's doing, but also they're adding gain. And you sort of automatically think, oh, I need this plugin, or this plugin's amazing. Okay, so how do we use our powers for good? Okay, so if we know that something sounds better when it's louder, there's also something else that happens. When something is louder, we also believe it's closer. So if we know something sounds closer and something sounds better when it's louder, what's something that we always want close and better? Is vocals. So here's a good thing to know. Our brains are made to listen to vocals. We're made to hear voice. So it makes sense that what we want in our production is the voice to be the star of the show. What's the best way to make the voice the star of the show? To make it closer. What's the best way to make it closer? To increase the gain. Let me just show you that in action. I've got this repitched vocal here. It's just a loop that I found. It's terrible. but it'll do for our purposes. So you can hear it's really far back in the mix. So let's make it better. Let's increase the gain. That warp mode is horrible. Let's try Complex Pro. It's a bit better. Anyway, let's continue on. So, a good way to make the vocals more out front and get them more clearer, why don't we use the compressor that we had before with the makeup? Worth a try, right? See what happens. Compressor. Let's do the stock compressor. Now what I'm just going to do, turn the make-off off, and I'm just going to drag the threshold down until I see a little bit of gain reduction. Then I'm going to adjust the attack and release the taste. Let's try that. Now, a good way to get rid of that terrible sounding artifacts is just to drench it in reverb. Now, the problem we're going to have is if we drench it in reverb, what reverb does is it makes things further back in the mix. So here's a little trick. To bring in a limiter, and just drag the gain up on the limiter to taste. Even though it's not ducking any of the volume, it still adds a little bit of character to it. See how now, even though we've added reverb to it to bring it back a little bit, now we've brought the gain up even further and it's back forward in the mix. So that's a way of using our powers in a good way. Making things that are more important in our mix louder. Kicks, bass, vocals. Yeah, so remember, use your powers for good. Don't believe a plugin is making your sound better until you've matched the volume. I can't stress how important that is.